Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for the brand new video, and does that not feel good to say that, ladies and gentlemen, because it's been far too long since we've sat here and spoke. What's it been? Nearly a week since me and you had a football conversation. The international break is obviously to blame, but as it takes away, ladies and gentlemen, it also gives us a little bit of a nugget of information back, and it gives us something to talk about, and that is what we're here to talk about today. How have our Rangers players got on, performed and came back? We will discuss it all in today's video with the old international Rangers Roundup. And disclaimer, by the way, in case you haven't seen this series before, we always do it just after the weekend, even though international breaks are now 3 games instead of 2, painfully, by the way. By that point, by the time the 3rd game is played, we're all in Rangers mode, we're talking about the next coming game, so instead of ignoring the international break, we sit and discuss it today on the Monday, so let's dive into this. And as usual, we'll start off closest to home, so let's talk about Scotland then, shall we? Because Rangers had one player called up to play for the old Scotland this time. Now, unfortunately for the entire nation, by the way, he wasn't actually played in the vital match versus Denmark for whatever reason. He was dropped out of the team, he didn't come into the team, and we went ahead and played a left back, a Champions League and Premier League left back over at right back to accommodate Kieran Tierney at left back. And trust me, that's got nothing to do with what team he used to play for or anything like that. Nah. That's to do with what he's actually doing right now and being a mainstay in one of the worst Arsenal teams over the last 15, 20 freaking years. It's crazy what's happening in Scotland, ladies and gentlemen. But thankfully for us thankfully for this international roundup, Patterson did come in for the 2nd game, which was of course against Moldova, which again isn't the best team, isn't the most difficult team, but he was given an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. No one that saw that game of football can he argue or can he say he didn't take that opportunity. He was fully drive and aggression, he was getting on the ball. Was it perfect? Was he a 10 out of 10? No, he did give the ball away a couple of times, etc., but he was trying everything, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the first time for, I don't know how long, maybe since the Alan Hutton days for Scotland early in his international career, that we genuinely had a threat down the right hand side from the first whistle to the last, and that was all down to Patterson. And if you just look at the goal that was scored in that game, it's a ball into the middle of the park. Patterson has no right to be able to read that and get there and intercept it, but he does, ladies and gentlemen. And then when he's got the ball, he passes out to the right hand side, he drives with the football, he drives right into the old box. It's a good wee pass in by Nesbitt, or is it a good pass? I don't know. It finds Patterson anyway, and Patterson does so well to even get this shot on target, and it's a fingertip save by the goalkeeper. Truly world-class save, in my opinion, because to me, Patterson does everything right there to score his first goal at an international level, but the goalie matches it. But thankfully, Big Dykes is there at the back post to tap it in, so we're robbed a Patterson goal, but we do get a Patterson assist. I'll take that. And that was the final goal in the game, and it all came off the back of young Nathan Patterson, who some people before the game, etc., was taking digs at him or taking shots at him. Well, nobody could take shots at him now, no matter what club top he actually wears. He's by far the best Scotland right back, and that should have led him into this game tomorrow versus Austria. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we do have some bad news, as Nathan Patterson has dropped out of the international setup. Now, right now, it's kind of a weird discussion whether it's an injury precaution for the laddie, even though he was able to play the entire game of football. Now, I know he did pick up a wee knock, but he seemed to be able to play through it, and he was able to tackle it. And again, he played the entire game, so maybe this is Clark protecting him, or maybe protecting himself so he doesn't have an argument or anything like when he goes ahead and picks O'Donnell for tomorrow. But all we know right now is Patterson is not available for Scotland tomorrow, as he's dropped back off the old international duty and has been replaced by Paul McGinn. But whenever there is an update, ladies and gentlemen, whether it is an injury or was simply a precaution, scroll down to the comments and that answer should be there. Now, moving over to our brothers from another mother, it is time to talk about Northern Ireland, and it's time to talk about the young, upcoming superstar by the name of Stephen Davis. He's really breaking through and emerging as a young talent right now, and he's came out there and he's played the entire game of football for Northern Ireland as they bet Lithuania 4-1 in a World Cup qualifier, which was massive, by the way. And I really wanted to emphasise Stephen Davis played the entire game, by the way, because that now means that he played the entire 95 minutes and 40-degree heat over in Romania, and then 4 days later played the entire 93 minutes versus Celtic, and then 4 days later, apologies, he goes and plays in another in 93 minutes, was it overall on the clock? That right there is silly, ladies and gentlemen, and that is why I call this man a young man. That is 3 full games in the space of a week, and yet we have to believe that that man's 36 years old. BS. The man's been cloned. he's a regen. But all joking on that side, moving away from the incredible minutes that he did play, he was also very solid in the middle of the park and just done his Stephen Davis thing, just being an orchestrator, sitting a wee bit further back, pinging passes left to right, keeping the ball moving. It was just a typical Stephen Davis performance. Now, thankfully, mercifully, in the second game versus Estonia, he was given the night off, a wee bit of a rest, but it's heavily expected he will return to the starting 11 and captain Northern Ireland versus Switzerland at 7:45 tomorrow. So best of luck to Northern Ireland and best of luck to the young man Stephen Davis. And where we just spoke about one majestic midfielder, let's go ahead and go on a wee plane and let's fly over to Finland and speak about another one then, shall we? Because Glenn Kamara, especially if you've been watching this series over the years, especially since Kamara obviously came to the football club, he's sort of been Mr. International MVP, Mr. International Man in Match. He's always the star player and he's always selected because every time he pulls on that wonderful Finland shirt, he just goes out there and balls out to the best of his ability and he stands out a mile off. Well, it's not quite to the same standard that we've seen over the last little while because so far in the international break he's only played one game and he did play the entire game in a 0-0 draw versus Wales. But again, it wasn't his best overall performance, but it certainly wasn't a bad performance either. And you know, son, he actually picked up a yellow card in the game of football, and I like the fact that he's starting to get the wee tackles on the go, because if there's one area that I could just edit and add a wee starter to, it's that aggressiveness and it's that tackling, because we know he's technical, we know he's this, but I quite like the fact that he's starting to get a wee bit involved in picking up the yellow cards when he needs to pick up the yellow card as well. Just like Stephen Davis that we mentioned, that Glenn Kamara is heavily expected to return to the starting 11 for tomorrow's mouth-watering game, ladies and gentlemen, as Glenn Kamara will be up against Paul Pogba and Kante. And you know who I fancy? It's that boy by the name of Saucy Glenn. I actually feel bad for Pogba and I feel bad for Kante, because imagine needing to chase down that boy when he's dropping shoulders and turning people left, right and centre. That'll be a massive game for Glenn Kamara, and all eyes will be on him as he continues to rise and rise in the old profile. And speaking of rising and rising, we now move over to Romania as we get to speak about our boy Hagi. And if you've been watching this series, you know these ones are kind of hit and miss because it's not always gelled at the international scene. There's been problem with the coaches, selections, etc, etc. But now especially, ladies and gentlemen, it looks as if Hagi is starting to take his opportunity and force his way into that starting 11, because he was given his usual substitute appearance in the very first match, but Hagi came out like a house on fire and changed the game and just changed it all in terms of positivity for Romania, because he got subbed on in the 68th minute. He went on to create two major opportunities that should have resulted in goals, by the way, but unfortunately they weren't, so he was robbed of an assist. But he was brilliant overall in the game versus Iceland and made a major impact in the game to go ahead and finish off Romania 2, Iceland 0. But where there was ifs and where there was maybes and where there was almost in that game versus Iceland, that all changed, ladies and gentlemen, because he played so well versus Iceland. He got into the starting 11 for the second game and he just never ever looked back, because he was absolutely outstanding. He was playing off the left hand side for Romania, cutting in with the right foot, driving out with the left foot, whipping balls and showing how comfortable he is with either foot, and he was just a threat all damn freaking game. And as we just said, there was no ifs and maybes in this match, because he went and got his assist that his performance deserved, not only in this game but in the last game as well. And it was wonderful versus Liechtenstein. He cuts in from the left hand side, he drips honestly, that's the best way I can describe it, he drips across right to the back post for the boy there, the full-back. It was almost Tavernier-esque with the right-back sprinting all the way forward, and he's there with a bullet header that he genuinely put it on a plate for a laddie, and that just a perfect wee taste of what his performance was like all damn day. And you can see the reviews, you can see the reaction, you can see his name, and it was just wonderful to see him getting praised, because usually after these international breaks there's a lot of things about his dad and can he handle the pressure playing for Romania with his dad being away. All that's been kind of fired away now, right now, because of the performances that he's put in. And with Romania now starting to pick up wins again, that's put his name in there, and he shouldn't come out anytime soon. And I'll tell you something right now as well, because I've watched a lot of him play obviously for this channel, etc, but I really think his physical improvements, you know how he's getting stronger and he's able to take challenges, is directly helping him in his international career, because he always was technical, he always had the talent, but he used to get kind of manhandled and bullied and targeted, and he'd fall away for games and get annoyed in games. But I genuinely think the improvements that he's had at Rangers and adapting to the Scottish game is helping him take that next step. And if we're going to get that player all season long, that would be absolutely beautiful. Now, next up on our international trip, I think we'll go from Romania and we'll go ahead and fly over to Nigeria as we go and speak about another Rangers midfielder that's called up to play at the international level. And is that not just good to be able to say? That's how much our club has improved, that these videos are a lot longer now because we have so many talented technical players that's getting called up for their international setup, and thankfully Joe Rebo was once again called up from the Super Eagles. And we've seen in the past, especially over the last couple, it's not always been great, you know what I mean? It's not been a transitional period where Glenn Kamara's been able to bang out performances. Joe Rebo's burst onto the scene, then had a couple of performances that wasn't great and got a lot of negativity, but this one, it's almost back to the Joe Rebo we know he can be. Again, it wasn't a 10 out of 10 performance or anything like that, but you can see there is promise with that lad. And if you check online, you check social media, you check the reports after the game, he's getting so much plaudits for his skill on the ball, and that's what we know he can do. But I still think just yet, over the last few internationals, you've not seen Joe Rebo at his best for the Super Eagles as he plays in a slightly different role, and I don't think it agrees with him just yet. But again, that's just me. He's getting some praise, some others that's still unsure about him right now. But again, I feel like if they play to his strengths, he could be a real player for the Super Eagles. But speaking of playing to their strengths, their usual, the guy that gets 10 out of 10 match reports every single time I'll look it up and check up on him, and it is none other than our boy Leon Balogun, who was big, who was powerful, and who kept the yet another clean sheet for Nigeria. Where we talk about Joe Rebo being hit and miss so far for Nigeria, it's the exact opposite for Leon Balogun. He's an absolute fan favourite. They all absolutely love him, and no wonder when he continues to put in performances like that. Played the entire game of football, kept another clean sheet. He's genuinely one of the first names on the team sheet for Nigeria, and I didn't see that changing anytime soon. But speaking of one fantastic defender, let's go ahead and speak of another, and let's fly over to Sweden and check up on our boy Big Phil Helander, the man who's responsible for a meltdown in Scottish football of truly epic proportions because they can't handle their teams losing and handle the team that they want to see win. Scottish media is crying and they're hurting and they're sad right now because this big man went ahead and slapped in a goal with his head before flying over and getting a chance in the Sweden top. And this is what I've been waiting to see for Sweden. No 5-minute cameos, no 10-minute cameos for Sweden. Put Helander in there and give him a chance. That's what I've sat and said now for ages, and he was given his chance, ladies and gentlemen. Hot off the form of his performance versus Celtic, the Swedish manager went ahead and started him versus Spain in a World Cup qualifier, and again Sweden, it was heavily expected to lose that game versus Spain because they're young, they're coming up, they're doing this, they're doing that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Helander put in a man of the match performance of a man of the match performance where he won 100% of his aerial duels. His tackle percentage was nuts, and even though I've been very critical of Lindelof in the past from doing this series, I genuinely thought the way it worked between Lindelof and Helander was outstanding, and both of them are the main reasons that Sweden was able to hold on to that game and come away with a 2-1 win versus Spain. And you just had to go on social media and just look up Helander. His name was trending, people was going nuts about how incredible he was. I mean, there were Swedish fans tweeting out there, why did we not see this at the Euros? Why do we not see this? Exactly, lads. That's what we have known for ages, how good and talented this centre-back is. Now, hopefully that's him put his name in there to start more games, and that's probably would have been what's happened. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, the Swedish manager has confirmed that Big Hit Phil has picked up a little bit of a knock, and he's training on his own and he's working on his own. Now, he's not officially ruled him out of tomorrow's game at all, but given the fact he wasn't even on the bench in the last match, it probably tells you that Big Phil won't be starting tomorrow, and that's a real shame because that was the performance to get him in there, because not only did he cause Scottish football to melt down, this man brought ABBA back. Now though, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to move on to the last couple of players that we need to discuss, and where so far it's been mostly positive. I mean, some better than others, some has put incredible performances like Helander, like Hagi, like Patterson, and the rest have been solid to good performances. This is when the video unfortunately turned to a little bit of a negative. But first of all, we have to start off with Jamaica, and before we say anything, massive congratulations to Kamaru for going ahead and making his debut in an old tournament / qualifier for Jamaica. He was called up, and when I seen the starting 11, I seen him, Antonio from West Ham, and I know Bailey's and going to be in there and that as well. I went, Jamaica could really have a team, ladies and gentlemen. But then I seen how they lined up and how they went about their business, and aye, they got absolutely spanked 3-0 off Panama. It was a great moment to see Kamaru have an opportunity to represent Jamaica, but the game didn't go to plan at all, where they lost heavily. And if I'm honest, I'm more annoyed at how they played Kamaru. It was almost left mid style, with him being kind of far back and even having to defend and track people and everything. It just didn't look right. It didn't look comfortable, and it wasn't a great performance at all. I just hope in the future, when Kamaru is given another opportunity to play for Jamaica, they actually play to his strengths and let him be Kamaru. Take the restraints off him defensively, let him go further up the park and let him just be what we know he can be, such an intelligent attacking forward, because with the play to his strengths, with the ability of Antonio, that really could be something when you throw in Leon Bailey as a front three as well for Jamaica. But aye, that's a wee bit disappointing for Kamaru, but again, it was great to see him at the old international setup. And last but not least, we now move over to Croatia, and this will be very short and very sweet because Barisic has had sort of a Helander international break, being called up but been sitting there on the bench as he's not played in either of the matches, and coming into the final match, it's not expected for him to return at all. He's not seen one moment of action at the international scene, which again may seem harsh with what I'm about to say, but I do think that's the right thing, because for me, Barisic isn't quite there in terms of fully fit yet. I still don't think we've seen a fully fit, ready to go Barisic, and I was a little bit worried about the international duty maybe coming and then he's playing minutes and he could potentially, but it's good that he's been given an opportunity to be a rest, but it's good he's also been given a chance to still be in amongst the group, because we know when he's fully fit and when he's Barisic, to the Barisic we know he can be, he's first name on that team sheet and he's number one left back. So it was good they kept him amongst the group, but again, it's unfortunate for him he's not been able to pull on the part. But I do think that could be a wee kick up the arse and get him coming in already red hot with the way that the old firm finished and the break went to go in to the international break. He'll be motivated more than ever now to get back into that starting 11 for Croatia, and that only means good things for us. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Morelos, Fashion Sakala, etc., wasn't called up for the international scene, but that is it for the old international roundup. For me, if I was picking my star player of the international break, again, I know there's a third game and that could drastically change, but to me, I'm going to give it to our boy Hagi. Now, again, that might surprise people because Patterson was very good for Scotland, but from everything I've seen and been able to watch for Hagi, he was just simply electrifying, and he could potentially play in this third game as well, which would be big for him given the tensions and the issues that's been there at the international setup with the manager. That just shows you how well he's actually played. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. What about you? What did you watch? Let me know your opinions. Let me know who stood out to you, and let me know what you think about the old international break coming to a close and us going back in to the old Rangers things. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I've been Saging over 92. If you don't mind helping the old channel out as well, that'd be greatly appreciated. But until next time, that has been a Sleepy Rocky Boy Johnson. I'll see you all the best, and bye bye.